Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, from wherever you are catching us here. As always, I'm your host, Desire, and today we have a guest in the studio with me today. We have Mr. Remigius Kintu, as we usually come here every Sunday, and I'll be inviting him a little bit later on to speak on the matters that we will be talking about today. We're going to be talking about what really is behind and how time is provoking Museveni's initiative to appoint or have his son succeed him. But before we get into those topics, firstly, what we always do, we're going to go into the national anthem. And then after the national anthem, we're going to play an anthem from Bukedi State. And we're going to be playing the Japadola and the Japadola song, the Japadola chiefdom songs. So we'll do that first and then we'll come back.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free for liberty, together we'll always stand. Oh, Uganda, the land of freedom, our love and labor we give, and with neighbors all at our country's calling, peace and friendship will be.
And we will go into Bukedi State and we will be playing the Japadola anthem from Bukedi. Because Big thank you to the producer for not only having those anthems, but having them on hand so that we can place them to all these diverse cultures and traditions that are walks of life for very many different Ugandans. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today. As always, Mr. Remigius Kintu is going to be with us here today. I'd like to invite him to come say a few introductory words, and then we will continue with dissecting today's topic.
Thank you very much, Desire, for inviting me today. Today being May 1st is the day we commemorate the respect and honor we give to all the workers. I want to send my greeting and put dignity in our humanity. So God bless you, especially on this wonderful day of the day we remember the workers in the world.
Thank you for that. I even forgot it was today, but as you said, it is the backbone of our society. Without further ado, so Mr. Kintu, today we're going to be looking a little bit deeper and closely into this Muhoozi project. We're going to look at it from different angles of where it started, where it has.
He offered his son.
If I was there for Museveni making a choice for Moses to become president, I would have appointed him Minister of Defense, and below him put the Minister of State for Defense, who is effective, who can go to Parliament and represent issues of public policy in order to protect Moses from all these people in Parliament who may want to humiliate him, insult him when he goes to appear before committees, so that he can be able to interface with the civilians. He has been largely all his entire professional life, he has worked within the military.
And some quarters believe that the president could have dropped Muhoozi and also Katumba Wamala so that he can manage the reactions of people, knowing that Katumba Wamala, a man of his integrity and the time he has served in the army, many were going to say a lot. So he did that basically to cool the waters. What do you partake of that?
I cannot rule it out. It makes sense to me, it makes logical sense. If you are removing a person like Katumba Wamala and his reputation, people may say many things, so you also remove Muhoozi, who is your son, and they realize that the son is not beyond change.
In 2013, the former coordinator of intelligence services, General David Sejusa, wrote a dossier about an alleged plan to bump off senior officials opposed to what he called the Muhoozi project. Sejusa claimed the president was grooming his son to succeed him. Dr. Mayambala also second-guessed the president on his decision to drop his son from the army. Mwenda, however, holds a different view.
Because the president has brought an almost entirely new team. So I think he needed to have coherence and people who are compatible, who can work with each other.
Opposition politician David Pulkol, who is a former chief spy, argues that the president is trying to shield his son from public criticism.
So as Museveni moves out, assuming he moves, or even while he's there, he would like to see that the son is prepared all round.
He believes Muhoozi will still be calling the shots in the army, behind the scenes, in the new position of presidential advisor for special operations.
He will still continue to do what he has been doing behind the scenes, because this special advisor is, if you double-click that folder, it is not disclosed what the duties are. Okay? So it is special operations, whether political operations, intelligence operations, military operations, whatever operations. It could even be economic operations, social operations, special operations. Special is special.
Some pundits who claim that they know President Yoweri Museveni very well say that whenever he's making reshuffles in the army, he does not mind about what the public would think, but rather what is good and safe for him. Others also argue that the new appointment of his son, Major General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, as his special advisor on special operations is a sign that no one is indispensable. Sudhilya Ruhanga, NTV, Kampala.
Welcome back from that short video, and I think we will start from there in terms of today's first questions. So before we were formally, I think the formal introduction of Muhoozi into Ugandan politics was this militant background, this military inflation or military hand that he had with his first appointment. And then Sejusa comes out and reveals that there is definitely a plan for his succession. But then so quickly after that, Sejusa then returns from exile, and all of a sudden, all the academics and all the journalists who were working to unveiling the reality behind these things, it seems to go silent. Then that's where I want to start with my first question, the culture of us as a people, where when something matters in terms of the political gravity of things, it is always diluted down. So that would be kind of like the first question. Why is it that the Muhoozi project is something that we have known a long time coming, but we're still in shock every time it is revealed to us, every now and again? I don't know if Mr. Kintu is able to hear me. So, and that,
The president's son, Major General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, is an army officer who has risen through the ranks faster than any others. In May last year, the president promoted him from the rank of brigadier to major general. He was also appointed the command of the Special Forces Command, an elite unit that provides security for the president, VIPs, and vital installations. In the latest army promotions, Major General Kainerugaba wasn't promoted, but he was appointed as senior presidential advisor for the special operations. Dr. Kakungulu Mayambala is a Makerere University Law Don. He believes Muhoozi's new posting is a move by the president to position his son to succeed him.
Now possible to have Major General Kainerugaba Muhoozi to do many tasks involving the operation wealth creation, involving political mobilization and other activities.
Dr. Mayambala's view is shared by a veteran journalist and media owner Andrew Mwenda. But Mwenda has taken issue with the president's choice of position he offered his son.
If I was there for Museveni making a choice for Muhoozi to become president, I would have appointed him Minister of Defense, and below him put the Minister of State for Defense, who is effective, who can go to Parliament and represent issues of public policy in order to protect Muhoozi from all these people in Parliament who may want to humiliate him, insult him when he goes to appear before committees, so that he can be able to interface with the civilians. He has been largely all his entire professional life, he has worked within the military.
And some quarters believe that the president could have dropped Muhoozi and also Katumba Wamala so that he can manage the reactions of people, knowing that Katumba Wamala, a man of his integrity, and the time he has served in the army, many were going to say a lot. So he did that basically to cool the waters. What do you partake of that?
I cannot rule it out. It makes sense to me, it makes logical sense. If you are removing a person like Katumba Wamala and his reputation, people may say many things, so you also remove Muhoozi, who is your son, and they realize that even the son is not beyond change.
In 2013, the former coordinator of intelligence services, General David Sejusa, wrote a dossier about an alleged plan to bump off senior officials opposed to what he called the Muhoozi project. Sejusa claimed the president was grooming his son to succeed him. Dr. Mayambala also second-guessed the president on his decision to drop his son from the army. Mwenda, however, holds a different view.
Because the president has brought an almost entirely new team. So I think he needed to have coherence and people who are compatible, who can work with each other.
Opposition politician David Pulkol, who is a former chief spy, argues that the president is trying to shield his son from public criticism.
So as Museveni moves out, assuming he moves, or even while he's there, he would like to see that the son is prepared all round.
He believes Muhoozi will still be calling the shots in the army, behind the scenes, in the new position of presidential advisor for special operations.
He will still continue to do what he has been doing behind the scenes, because this special advisor is, if you double-click that folder, It is not disclosed what the duties are. Okay? So it is special operations, whether political operations, intelligence operations, military operations, whatever operations. It could even be economic operations, social operations, special operations. Special is special.
Some pundits who claim that they know President Yoweri Museveni very well say that whenever he's making reshuffles in the army, he does not mind about what the public would think, but rather what is good and safe for him. Others also argue that the new appointment of his son, Major General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, as his special advisor on special operations is a sign that no one is indispensable. Sudhir Ruhanga, NTV, Kampala.
Video. So earlier on, I think the question was, so generally the first time I ever heard of Muhoozi or the Muhoozi project was when Sejusa got on a plane, went into exile, and revealed to at least the Ugandan people that there was a project called the Muhoozi Project with the expedious honorifics that were given to Muhoozi throughout the military. And in that video, what I found very interesting is that the last individual, I've forgotten his name at the moment, said that the plan is, or the plan was, that if Museveni leaves power, for Muhoozi to be equipped with enough people around him, but it's even in place if when Museveni is still in power, for Muhoozi to still be able to take over, having control of certain settlements. So what we kind of see, we see Muhoozi being introduced to us, and not only us as Ugandans, but the world as this militant figure who has control of not only our national resources, but also the special forces. But then the question that I had for you, Mr. Kintu, why is it that I think to a bigger question to our culture and our reception of this and how we've been dealing with this kind of infiltration and domination, even when we know the truth, why is it every time that it reassigns or reshows itself, what are some of the propaganda tactics that are being used that every time it reappears or resurfaces, it's still a shock and something new, but it's something that we have known for a while was a long time coming?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry we had some technical problem that I was cut off for a few minutes. However, your question is very well taken. The Muhoozi project has been in existence for many years. What most people do not understand is that these guys, they sit down and plan, as some local people call it, okubaza. The question is, why don't you do the same thing? You cannot sit here and let the other plan when you are doing nothing but dancing and singing. You got to plan too, because when there is a saying that people don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. And there is no way you can succeed without a very, very good plan.
Yeah.
We can borrow this wisdom from builders of buildings. An architecturer is the one who determines how good, beautiful, and durable any building is going to be. It's not the workers that put the bricks and the cement and the steel bars in the building that make it a success project. No way. It is the architecturer. If the architecturer really gave us a good plan of this skyscraper, or even if it is a two-story building, you can hire anybody, even a school dropout, to work on the project and get a very good, successful building. Museveni and his cabal, if I could call them that, they planned a long time ago before they even took over the country, because these plans were being drawn out in the bush when they were still in the rural area that they are going to take over this country, not only this country, but the entire Great Lakes region. And those who were with them thought this is a joke. Now, when they took over the government in Uganda, they started training their own people. If you notice, all the pure Tutsis who were in the bush with Museveni were promoted to the rank of general. Those who were not Tutsis, they couldn't go beyond the rank of colonel. And you can throw in some names. And then when they found that there were some very good people among the non-Tutsis, they gave them jobs that had no military or any power within the military establishment. For example, I remember there is one Muganda guy, they raised it to the rank of brigadier, and his job was to distribute uniform and a buji. That's it. The command of a battalion or a platoon. No. He was distributing uniforms and a buji. That's it. And he was so proud of saying, hey, look at me now. I am a brigadier. Now, there is another trick they play. When you have proved to be stupid with very small brains, then they elevate you to the rank of general. And there is nothing as disgraceful as seeing a real pumpkin raised to the rank of a general.
Yeah.
Now, then when they see that you really are very good and you could be a threat to their leadership positions, then there is only one thing they do: get rid of you.
They have to.
That's exactly what they did. Yeah, that's what they did to the son of Mr. Gilbert Bukenya, because he was at that time a brilliant, highly educated, well-trained soldier who had no any other position in the military other than the top. And they had to get rid of him. Muhoozi himself, people who know him best, have shared information about him. Of course, the public knows he's a drunkard, he's a womanizer, that in those two areas, he's excellent, no doubt about it. But when it comes to using his brains, he has proved to be very, very low. Nevertheless, they raised him to the rank of general in order to prepare him for a higher position. Can you imagine? I had one person inform me that he takes about 5 minutes to sign his name on a sheet of paper. Now, imagine that kind of a person being made president. One other thing you got to understand, this Batusi plan of taking over the region has a subsection that is establishing what you would call a monarchy. Museveni becomes the king, and when his time is over, by the wish of the devil or God, his son takes over. When that son also reaches the maximum length of his life, the grandson of Museveni will take over. This is what they are planning, and this is what they have agreed upon. As long as all this activity is protecting their interests, which are to take over the entire Great Lakes region, as I told you before, regarding that Nyamulenge man who came in from Kivu, came in via Burundi, Tanzania, to learn guerrilla warfare in Uganda. They gave him a Uganda passport, and they helped him. Then he worked with the other Tutsis to go take over Rwanda. For them, there is no boundary. The only boundary is between a Mutusi or a non-Mutusi. That's all that matters. The rest doesn't matter. That is why we even said we revealed to you that the ambassador of Uganda in the UN is directly from Kigali, a Tutsi. It's not a Musoga, it's not a Chapadora, it's not a Uganda, it's not an Acholi, it's not a Rugbara, but a Tutsi from Kigali is now sitting in New York as Uganda's ambassador. And how much more colonization do you want to see? Okay? You have one reporter has mentioned about Muhoozi being in charge of special operations. Well, we know that very well. When they say special operations, that is a killer squad. That is a squad that eliminates anybody who stands in their way. That is his special operations. It's not building bridges or planting bananas. No, killing people. And you have seen a trail of so many Ugandans who have been murdered by this so-called Muhoozi project. The Muhoozi project is nothing but a killer squad. And once they have killed all of those people whom they suspect to be or future opponents of the Tutsi dynasty, well, then Muhoozi will stand out there as the new leader and nobody will be able to oppose because most of the people who will be left in the country will be what I would call mediocre peasants. In the communist language, we call the proletariat, but don't expect anything out of the proletariat. That's why you saw hundreds of them going out there to eat free food because there is a ceremony of birthday. You wouldn't expect a guy like me to go out there and eat that free food, but that proletariat, all of them went there. But did you notice one thing? They brought in thousands of Banyarwanda women from Kigali. They flooded Kampala. They almost overshadowed everything, with the exception of a few of our, I don't know what to call them. It's not a nice word to say on a Sunday like this. But, I saw some of our, tribesmen, if I can use that, going there, hugging those guys, kissing those women, and yet when they come out, they tell us that they are opposed to this regime. That's a lot of bull, a lot of bullshit. Then, when I saw people, and I will mention one name, who has been always parading like a peacock in the public, Tamale Mirundi. He was there.
Oh yes. Oh, we have a video. We have him on video footage. There is no worries. We have him on video as well. Everyone who was at that occasion, they were really minuscule, and they showed that they originally were minuscule.
They don't even understand where they belong and where they don't belong. This was a Tutsi thing, and anybody who is not a Tutsi,
they were not involved.
You have to be sick in your head to go there.
I think further on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say, just ahead, it will show the contrasts, and we can look deeper into that idea of how everyone by this occasion, this celebration, was put in their place. If at this point you don't understand at what level or caliber you're seen at or referred to at, then you're just playing foolery to get just a little few pennies. Because that was definitely made when you look at the occasion that Kagame attended versus the occasion in Logogo. We have video footage. We'll look closer at that ahead of time, and we can dive deeper into that. But you were saying.
Yes. Well, recently we saw on social media one guy called General Kayanja crying that he needs medical help. They have used this man all his life, and now he was crying that he should be assisted to go overseas and be given medical treatment the way they have done with their fellow Tutsi generals. Now, Kayanja doesn't understand that he doesn't belong in that camp and he cannot get that kind of treatment because he's not a Tutsi. But look at how duped he has been. They used him all these years to kill fellow Ugandans under the guise of eradicating corruption and all the other so-called crimes. I mean, he has blood all over his fingers, more than his fingers. They used him. Now they have dumped him. He's suffering, and they can't even come to his rescue. It's a shame that many of our people have prostituted themselves to this Tutsi dynasty plan, not remembering that they actually are indigenous Ugandans. I was very pleased when I saw one woman asking the so-called runaway attorney general and asked him whether he was really a Ugandan. How could you be Ugandan and sign this kind of coffee deal? You see, these Batusi are always going to use you to do the dirty job. You remember the massacre of Kasese. The Batusi didn't go there and do the murder. They picked an idiot and sent him over there. Go do the killing. He came out feeling so proud. He has done the master's job, and they promoted him. Now he feels he's wonderful because he was promoted. Not realizing that he has been used to murder his own Ugandan citizens. And the Batusi are laughing. Literally, they are laughing. And they are looking at that, fool who has been used, not knowing that he's being used to kill his own people. This is what we have to educate our people, to understand that you are a Ugandan first, and you have to defend Uganda, not Tutsi Empire.
So, within that vein, we're going to move on to the second video. And then I think the second video further extends. We'll start to look into then the lies and the fabrication and the misinformation that is being used. So that also us as a people from that video, we will start to see how us as a people can stay alert. Because number one, we have addressed us not planning, because this has been planned and it has been given a futurity, and we have to play catch up and also plan past the futurity of their own. But also, while we're at it and planning and familiarizing ourselves with the circumstances we find ourselves in, how do we stay alert? So I want us to watch this video and then come back and discuss being alert in the midst of misinformation, lies, and just blatant lies that are being told. And we all know they are a lie, to not even cover up, but it's just to calm us down so that we do not remain, how do we remain persistent per se? So if the producer could please play that one, and then we'll come back after that one.
He's rarely in the public limelight and will hardly say a word, especially to journalists. And yet, commander of the Special Forces Command, the newly promoted Major General Mhozi Kainerugaba, remains one of the most talked about personalities in the country. Major General Mhozi is a subject of debate due to persistent claims that his father, President Yoweri Museveni, is grooming the son to succeed him in an alleged scheme dubbed the M7’S Project. The so-called M7’S Project gained more prominence in April 2013 when then coordinator of intelligence agencies, General David Sejusa, wrote in a missive that later leaked to the media that a plot was afoot to assassinate senior army officers and government officials opposed to M7’S succeeding his father. In a rare interaction with the media, Major General Mhozi spoke about the subject for the first time.
There's been talk about the M7’S Project. What do you say about it?
It doesn't exist. Non-existent. That is a red herring.
In the 2013 missive that later forced him to flee to exile in London for fear of his life, General David Sejusa named the then Army Chief, the late Aronda Nyakairima, Inspector General of Police General Karekaihura, and former Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi as those opposed to the alleged M7’S Project. But General Mhozi says he's not interested in any political office, much less the presidency.
I don't have the ambition to be president. I'm very happy being in the military, and that's where I intend to stay for some time.
The Special Forces commander, hitherto a brigadier, spoke to journalists moments after he was decorated. This means Muhoozi is one rank shy of becoming a 4-star general, the final rank in the army hierarchy. For a man who joined the army in 1999, Muhoozi's meteoric rise has raised many eyebrows. In just 17 years, he's about to hit the army rank ceiling. This is probably the reason critics argue that his father, the Commander-in-Chief, General M7’S, is grooming his son for the country's top job. Muhoozi disagrees.
As you heard, there's a process, there's a commissioning board that looks at each case by case and decides. So you've never heard of a message where I promote myself.
In the wake of General Muhoozi's promotion, there were media reports that he had to be elevated to match the new outlook of the Special Forces Command, which was to be transformed into an independent service force like the Land Forces and the Air Force within the National Army, the UPDF.
There is nothing like independent in the UPDF. We are all joint. It's a joint force. We all work together. So talk of independence is misplaced. That's not going to happen. There may be adjustments, there may be changes, but the UPDF is one army and SFC is part of that army. You saw me saluting my commander, the CDF.
During the pimping ceremony at the army headquarters in Mbuya, Kampala, over 700 newly promoted officers were decorated. Anthony Chakabare, who in 2001 declared war on government and later returned to the fold, was promoted to colonel and retired. Presidential Advisor on Defense and head of the Army Land Board, Joram Mugume, was also pipped as Lieutenant General, the second highest position in the Army. Uganda's Army ranks that are taken from the British tradition follow in this order from the highest to the lowest: a General or 4-star, Lieutenant General or 3-star, Major General or 2-star, Brigadier, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, Major, Captain, Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant, Officer Cadet, which is held during the initial officer training. Chief of Defense Forces, General Katumba Wamala, urged the newly promoted officers to maintain discipline, whether inside or outside the army.
Must desist from all forms of ideological manipulation and bad politics, as it will undermine the process of building and consolidating our national unity. Together, we must guard and protect our country's peace and security as a strategic national interest.
One of the credits of the current regime is turning the ragtag National Resistance Army into a professional unit or institution of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. That is a commitment that the Chief of Defense Forces, General Katumba Wamala, continues to give to Ugandans, that they will continue to maintain peace across the borders of Uganda and, of course, outside and the neighboring countries. Shiran Huchre at the Army headquarters in Mbuya.
Welcome back. So, Mr. Kintu, in regards to this video, a few things stood out to me that I wanted us to discuss today. So, whenever news, I want us to keep our attention on. It was by then Jusa who had brought this story into the public stream, but then immediately the two people who were opposing it, you have Kayihura and Amama Mbabazi. But then on the other hand, in this video, you have General Katumba Wamala standing there and acting like Muhoozi project doesn't exist. And so if you could please break it down for us, this systematic creation of a normality whereby, because they've done this also with when I was reading papers on the Bahima century dynasty plan, and in that, when the emails were leaked of what the truth was, they always find a way to dilute it back and act like it doesn't exist but is only a myth in some people's minds, and create a new normalcy where that which is doesn't exist until it comes into fruition. So if you could please help us just dissect or dive deeper into those aspects, because I find it rather very standoffish if Kayihura and Amama Mbabazi and now the representations of being against the Muhoozi project, Sejusa is nowhere to be seen or heard in this. He's coming back from exile. And General Katumba Wamala is acting like this doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, we said over and over that these people are masters of deception and telling lies. Telling the truth for them is just like expecting a giraffe to talk, because it will never be able to talk. These people cannot tell the truth, and they have never been able to tell the truth. They are excellent liars. The only thing that tells the truth is when you look at their actions. That's where you can find the truth. But if you are going to go by what they say, my friend, forget it. You will never get anywhere. You've mentioned Kayihura and Mbabazi. Well, these people have also been very good at posing as if there is something that is going to come out. But at the end of the day, they are all ganging together, because if you listen to some reporters who have really done and exposed it, when they meet at night to decide what to do, whom to kill and where to kill, Kayihura and Mbabazi are always there. Always.
Yeah, exactly.
They never miss those sessions. Now, when they come out, you would think that, oh, maybe I could confide in these guys because they look like they are opposed to the Mohozi project, or they are opposed to, whatever his name is, Yoweri Museveni. They are not opposed to him. They are part of the whole system. They are just a bunch of branches. Now, you've mentioned the Katumba Wamala. That's the man I feel very sorry for, because with respect to all his education and military training, he has failed to understand, or rather he has failed to pick up what I would call wisdom. He may have trained in Kansas, in the United States, in the military training and other training camps. Yes, he can shoot, he can do anything, but if you look at his brains, they leave a lot to be desired. A clear example is, how could you be a general and they try to kill you, and instead the bullets that were aimed at you kill your daughter in your presence, and still be able to go and say, I am going to my commander-in-chief and kiss his feet. The man, I just can't. It is, even if I ask my grandson, who is 8 years old, he could tell me better than what Katumba Wamala did. Okay? So that man, I just discount him when I'm thinking about people who can give me some point of reference. He's totally outside the realm of humanity. He's not. He just doesn't have it. It's unfortunate. He just doesn't have it. In the same way as Gilbert Bukenya, they killed Bukenya's son, because Bukenya's son could have been the commander of the Uganda army. Since he's not a Mutusi, they killed the little boy, and Bukenya still kisses their feet. I mean, I don't understand it. Sometimes I wonder how they were born. So those are not going to bother my brains to try to analyze, because it is always very difficult for any intelligent person to understand the workings of a non-intelligent person. It's very difficult. You can't even comprehend it. That's why we cannot find a strategy to defend ourselves against the onslaught of people who really do not have it upstairs.
Then I think there's one thing that you just brought out and you just highlighted, and I think this is, if this could be we can expand this on a little bit, because now it's reached it's a part of their deceptive tactic. So the lie happens, and then when the lie happens, the actions are different and do point to a truth. But then what confuses people, or what continues to confuse us, is that while all that is happening, there is pawns that are already posted and have been strategically put in certain positions to act like, for example, we can talk about just the recent elections and how we had so many people who were a part of, like the youth NRM group, groomed by NRM politics. And we know what NRM politics means if you're groomed by it. I'm not talking about just a youth counselor who's 25 years old and loves NRM and thinks he's going to get rich and this is his way into politics. I'm talking about people who have been actually educated, groomed militarily and militarily and intellectually by what is the actual national resistance movement. What is the plan, the backbone to everything, the mother of SFC and the mother of RDF as in itself. And then you have these people then cross, and it's the same tactic where they cross and now they're members of other political units claiming to be against the same government. And this strategic way of pawning and acting like not everyone is eating from the same cup continues to confuse a lot of us, especially many who are not familiar with this high intensive level of deception that involves also propaganda, layered propaganda of infiltration as well.
Yes, that's true. The NRM has done a lot of brainwashing. They have taken advantage of the feeble minds and shaped them the way they want them to be, and groomed them, trained them into what they want those people to do and be. And this kind of grooming also goes with rewards. If you prove to be what they want you to be, then they give you like you would give your dog when you are training your dog. Whenever it does what you want it to do, you give it a little bit of a bite, it wags its tail, then it continues doing what you want it to do. And eventually you get it to a level of being well tamed. That's what they have done, and that's what they are doing to a lot of our people. There is one man, I'm not going to mention his name, he's a Muganda who failed high, by then they used to call it the Cambridge School Certificate. He got 999 in all his subjects at St. Henry's College, Kitovu. And he thinks he's some big, some big do in the country. They have used him as intelligence spy on fellow Baganda, and now they put him on some commission whereby he's making $600, not shillings, $600 a day. That's a lot of money for someone sitting there in Kampala.
That's a lot of money.
And
just doing gossip.
Like he is now look at this. This is a fellow who was good for nothing, who has no good education, who has no good skills, who has no profession, but they have used him as a spy on fellow Baganda and also have used him to do damage to the Buganda kingdom. And he's out there puffing, and literally puffing like a peacock with plenty of money in his pocket, which he could have never have earned any other way. That's the kind of people with that kind of financial reward. He's okay. He's comfortable. And whatever they tell him to do, he's going to do it. Including if they tell him to kill someone, he might if he can. But we have many people who have been groomed and brainwashed and misguided with all kinds of special favors Others just call them honorable. My God, they feel like they are on top of this world because they call me honorable. But you ask him, you are honorable, or you are sitting at the parliament. What have you done for your people? Nothing. Zero. Zero. He can't do anything. You know, we know very well that members of parliament, unfortunately, we don't have a parliament in Uganda, we have a parliament.
We don't.
Those members of parliament cannot even say, Desire, I know you, we are from the same village, you have a good education. Let me recommend you so that you can go get a job in the Ministry of Works or Ministry of Agriculture. He cannot. He cannot.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, I am an MP or I am a minister. And you ask him, what can you do? Some of the, I'll tell you one other story, which is a very true story. There is this minister of education from Luwero, good grief, what is his name? Dr. Oh, I'm sorry, I had it written down here. He went to, the school he went to doesn't even have windows and the doors. I think it's called Nandere. No, not Nandere. Somewhere there in Luwero. I've forgotten the name. You know this minister, what is his name? He's a Muganda man. He has about 3 private schools he owns.
Is it
Muyingo,
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Muyingo?
that's the name. Yeah, Mr. Muyingo. The school he attended in primary school doesn't even have windows and the doors. And he claims to be Minister of Education. When his Minister of Education or his boss is building fantastic schools in Tanzania. Now, how can you call yourself minister sitting in the government, in the cabinet? You can't even help the area where you grew up. And these people, that is where someone was saying, I think we need some more Pol Pot. These are people who should go with the Pol Pot. They are not even fit to live.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. These people are not fit to live. They are being used to do the dirty work of promoting the Tutsi takeover of our country. And they are doing it willingly because they gave him a little, what do you call it, fried chicken.
Change.
And he's running off with pieces of fried chicken. Okay?
What is
now,
600 to millions of dollars?
Yes. And that's what they are living for. They have become so selfish and self-centered, not knowing that they have become even more stupid than stupid. And that's a problem we have in our society today. Nevertheless, I believe we have some intelligent Ugandans from across the country. Those are the ones who are going to rescue our country. But if we look at this multitude of nincompoops, don't expect anything out of them. Yeah.
So I think we'll then carry on and go into our third video, because today I just wanted us to closely look at just the media coverage and what's going on from when Muhoozi first came into the military all the way leading up to his birthday. So I didn't even know when Muhoozi's birthday is, and neither did I know that it had to be a national event. So we'll reach to the climax of that conversation. But what we'll do, we'll go into the third video, and then after the third video, we'll take a short break and then come back and then continue with the program.
Ono yatandise na kulambulanyiriza abasirikale abali ku mulimu gw'okulwanyisa abajamula ba Al-Shabaab mu ggwanga lino. Lieutenant General Muhoozi amaze mu ggwanga lya Somalia wiiki namba ng'alambula amagye ga Uganda agali eno okwetegeeza engeri gye emirimu. Kino era kyagendereddwamu okumanya okusomoza ku basanga emirimu gyabwe. Okusinziira ku mawulire agafulumiziddwa okuva ku kitebe ky'amagye ekyamisomo, Lieutenant General Muhoozi nga yakulira amagye ga Uganda ag'oku ttaka yayagadde okunyonyoka akawonvu n'akagga ku bikwatagana n'amagye agali ku ddimu ly'okulwana.
And to deliver to them.
Uganda y'emu ku mawanga agasukira ddala okuweereza amagye mu ggwanga lya Somalia okukuuma emirembe mu Maaci wa 2007.
This one motivates your troops to fight much better because you provide guidance and solutions that would make their work very, very, very easy.
Muhoozi yeebazizza amagye ga Uganda olw'emirimu gye gakoze okutebenkeza Somalia.
The purpose of my visit is to thank the troops for the great work they are doing and to deliver to them the thanks of the entire army, UPDF, and the entire people of Uganda.
Ono agamba nti kiba kya bwenkanya omukulembeze okutula mu ofiisi n'atalambula bantu bakulembera.
A commander is not one that sits in the office. Commander is somebody who goes to the field and understands what his soldiers are going through in the field. So that's why I came here.
General Muhoozi mu wiiki ennamba gy'amaze mu ggwanga lya Somalia alambudde ebifo amagye gye gasiisidde omuli Alabiska, Serijale, Balawi, Balidogule n'ebirala. Akalaatidde amagye okukola kyonna ekisoboka okulaba nga bawesa Uganda ekitiibwa nga bali ku mirimu.
Mkumbuke ati muko ambassadors wa Uganda hapa. Msifanye kitu kibaya chochote ambao kinaweza kikaleta jina mbaya kwa nchi yetu.
So we'll discuss this a little bit before going into break, yeah? So the reason why we put this video in today, I wanted us to dissect kind of when we start to see the international play. Because a lot of people have failed to understand, especially us Ugandans, where the international interests are. So here you have General Muhoozi, or whatever he calls himself, or accolation or title he's given himself, being the one who's in charge of, who has become the image of Museveni's military power abroad. And that is directly, of course, we know, controlled by the West. And they will align with the next leader who has control of such lineage. So I wanted you to help us further explain, because this is an AMISOM project, which we know very well is part of the AFRICOM network, which is, of course, extension of American power on the African continent for using our own militants to go into African countries to wreak havoc in the name of spreading peace and exploit resources. So when we start a campaign and the Western world, because it's not only them who lies, the West lies too. But I think this video, or if we explain this further, can give us more light in where the West lies in terms of who it will ally itself with. Because of course they want to be with the next leader to walk the same path that Museveni has walked with them, because that secures the Great Lakes region the same way, especially if they have a partnership with Paul Kagame. So yeah, those are the only things I wanted to highlight and wanted to see what are your takes on that, Mr. Kintu.
Thank you. First of all, I want to mention that the Muhoozi birthday celebration was more than a birthday. It was an engagement party, or in Uganda, Okwanjula. They were trying to expose to the nation and to the international community that this is going to be the new leader of Uganda. They bluffed the people because they know people will go anywhere you have food, free food and free drinks, which they supplied in plenty in all the towns of Uganda. People were fooled that we are really going for a birthday party, or we are going to have free food, not knowing the hidden agenda of this exposure. Okay? And people who went there gave Muhoozi a different picture, because even those people who went there, they really didn't know what they are going into. They thought it is going to be a birthday party. Now, look, if it is going to involve regional community, why they didn't invite leaders from Kenya, Tanzania, or Southern Sudan, or Congo? Only the Batusi were there, plus hundreds and hundreds of Batusi from Rwanda who came and flooded Kampala, both men and women. All right? So that tells you that we are in a deep problem with these people. The second part you have mentioned of Muhoozi going to Somalia. Yes, let me tell you this. Museveni's regime is sustained by the United States. And the United States is sustaining Museveni because of the Somali theater. If you remember very well, the Americans were badly beaten by those Somalis when they shot down their helicopter some years ago and they dragged a dead American on the streets. It was such a huge humiliation of the mighty United States that they made a promise never again to send American ground troops on the African soil for anything, in spite of knowing that Africa owns more than 30% of the natural resources found in the whole world. And they want to have those resources for their company, for their corporations. That's why they established the AFRICOM. Now, they found out that within the tribes of our area, the only people who have no royalty to any particular country, who have no feet on the ground of any country, are the Tutsis. So they can be used as a roving army to do whatever they want. If you remember, when the Americans stirred up the trouble in Darfur province, the first country that sent troops to Darfur was Rwanda. Soon after Kagame had just taken over Rwanda. They were not even in a position to control the entire country of Rwanda, but they were able to send troops to Darfur because they are operating on the orders of their boss. When Museveni was asked to send troops into Somalia, he said, yes, sir, and sent troops. Some of our boys have been killed there for no reason, but they are just there working as slaves of American military command. And so when Muhoozi goes to Somalia, definitely the American commanders who are sitting in comfortable, safe positions there, because they are not sitting in the front line to face fire. They are sitting there watching. Then they say, this boy is going to be good. Is going to be good. Because for them, this is a boy who will do a good job. So they will, and what Museveni is saying is, let the Americans also endorse this boy that is doing a good job in Somalia, which is the only, it is 90% of Museveni's survival as a regime. The Somali connection. They sent Uganda troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, but that is nothing.
And Iraq, because they were getting embarrassed there as well.
Oh yes, they were.
They were getting embarrassed there as well.
But the Uganda contribution in Somalia is a major factor why America is behind Museveni. America doesn't care about the human rights. And when I say America, well, America is a big country, but those pharaohs in the Pentagon and the CIA, they don't care about human rights. They are totally insensitive to humanity. It's the other Americans who will have the sensitivity to humanity, but not those guys in the Pentagon. They're just as ruthless as any other, character.
Thank you so much for expanding on that, because I think once people start to begin to understand that the ruling class, the intelligence units, have no interest whatsoever in their existence, then we can start to know where our power lies and when to pick up our own arms to defend ourselves at home. We'll take a short break and then come back and continue with the program.
The importance of a federal system of governance in Uganda. 1. Federalism restores peace and regional stability. 2. Federalism promotes political participation. 3. Federalism encourages economic development across the country. 4. Federalism provides multiple levels of government action. 5. Federalism accommodates a diversity of opinions. 6. Federalism protects against tyranny of the majority. 7. Federalism promotes unity without imposing uniformity. Register today and join the UFCC Assembly by visiting www.ufcc.uk. Welcome back from that short break. And as you know, in the break, if you're there and you're watching this, do take time out to go and register, participate in what is to come or what is to be. Because what we aspire for, of course, is a federacy in Uganda that will respect all the indigenous peoples of Uganda, guarantee their land back, and help with nation building. Without further ado, we'll go into our next video, and after this video we'll come back because we're leading up to Mr. Kintu. We started from Muhoozi's military influence on a national level. He gets spiked up. Muhoozi project is then known, then the deception and the confusion that made this die out for a decade. Because we have to realize in Uganda, once Muhoozi project was out, Said Jussa went out, musicians came out and sang, Said Jussa the song. It became a punchline joke. Politicians were talking about it. Then it died out for a decade and a few more years. We never talked about it. It has only emerged again in the 2021 campaign that Ugandans have started to talk about it all over again. So it dies out, and then you have Muhoozi on the international plane in terms of military and American military power extension in Africa and his participation. So now we're going to go to the next step, because we hoped that with these and our analysis of this, people can start to see how serious and deeply ingrained this project is and can start to understand it, and also understand the dire need that we have to plan. And we still need to plan, and a lot of work needs to be done. So if the producer can please play the next video, and then we'll continue from there.
At the headquarters of the Special Forces Command in Entebbe is where the change of command ceremony took place Saturday morning. The ceremony saw the Senior Presidential Advisor on Special Operations and Commander Land Forces, Lieutenant General Kainerugaba Muhoozi, handing over command of Special Forces Command to the incoming acting commander, in absentia, Brigadier General Peter Chandia. The incoming Deputy Commander SFC, Brigadier Felix Busizori, received the instruments of authority on behalf of the commander. The function was presided over by the Chief of Defense Forces, General Wilson Mbasumbadi, who congratulated the commanders upon the elevation, which he said meant added responsibility.
These appointments are an additional responsibility, but which, like the Commander-in-Chief saw in you, I have no doubt that you will execute to the best of our expectations. So we will endeavor to continue supporting you in these areas so that you have a force that is professional, it is effective, it is efficient, and accountable.
He noted that Special Forces Command started as a small force. However, the rigorousness of its leaders saw it grow into a formidable and unmatched force in terms of professionalism, training capabilities, discipline, and commitment to deliver on its tasks.
I think it started as a section in the bush when the M7’S just around our president. Eventually it grew into a PPU, and eventually it grew into a group. PGB, yes, PGB. And now it is a command. This growth has come because of the leadership, the focus with a clear purpose.
General Mbadi urged Lieutenant General Muhoozi as the new Commander Land Forces to replicate the same professionalism in the Land Force. He also called upon officers and men of Special Forces Command to accord their new commanders all the necessary support to further improve the force. The outgoing Commander, Lieutenant General Muhoozi, held the Special Forces Command leadership and Uganda People's Defense Forces for supporting him in his tour of duty, especially in securing the President of the Republic of Uganda and related activities to ensure the stability of the country.
I welcome Brigadier Chandia to this new office, knowing full well he has been understudying it for a long time as Deputy Commander SFC. I am confident that you shall do a good job, Peter.
He informed the incoming commander of the impending tasks according to priority, which include building of an oxygen-producing plant, adding to the existing infrastructure development requirements, restoring the culture of saving as one of the tools to further build SFC.
But here I must say that when I came in 7 months ago, I realized that our old saving culture had deteriorated to some degree. In fact, in the first few weeks, we did not have sufficient funds to run activities. I was fortunate enough to get some support from His Excellency, and this greatly helped us carry out our work. Our saving culture has been a hallmark of SFC. It's what distinguishes us from other services. It is what has helped us achieve all the things we have achieved in infrastructure development.
The incoming leadership hailed Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba for his strategic leadership of the SFC and promised to begin from where he stopped.
Sir, you have taught us many things. You have inculcated into us the culture of saving and proper utilization of resources. You have done a lot for this army, both visible and invisible achievements. So on the visible achievements, these include, but not limited to, human resource development, infrastructure development, and building different capabilities. We shall begin from where you stopped and keep the candle burning in order to keep the mighty name of Special Forces Command.
The function was attended by, among others, the Joint Chief of Staff, Major General Pod Chanda, the Chief of Staff, Air Force Major General Charles Okidi, the UPDF Chief Political Commissar Major General Masco, the UPDF Spokesperson Brigadier General Flavia Bekwaso, General Officers, Commanders, Commandants, Senior and Junior Officers, and militants, among others. Bernard Higa, UBC News, Entebbe.
Yes, first of all, UBC is what do they call them? It's like a vision statement, or their mission statement is inspiring Uganda. That alone in itself sets up this whole video. So here then we're having a retirement of Muhoozi from the military. But I would like to point people to the first video that we showed. When Muhoozi is asked if he wants to become president, he actually says he does not have aspirations to become a president, and he's gonna stay in the military, but he uses the word and that is where I'm going to stay for a while. So the answer was already there. He was never going to be him being in the military did not disregard the fact that he would rise to presidency. But I digress. Then to this video, I wanted to bring out just a few things that were said that were standoffish. First of all, you have a whole unit promising to support Muhoozi. For what? He's retiring. Support him in what? What does he need a special force council for? And then it's the idea and the revelation that even the idea of SFC started way back when they were still in the bush. And this is being revealed and it's flying over our heads as consumers of information in Uganda. So the shell shock has been taken away and it just is flying over our head. And then the last question, or something I wanted us to dive into, is I'm actually dumbfounded about what infrastructure has SFC built in Uganda.
Well, let me start with the infrastructure. Yes, they have built an infrastructure which is building a military establishment that is manned by as close as possible to 99% Tutsi. That's a big infrastructure they have built. And to them, that's an achievement. They are going to do it, if possible, to pull it the percentage closer to 100%. Because as far as they are concerned, if you are a Rugubara, Choli, Langi, Teso, Musoga, Mugishu, Chapadora, Muganda, you are nothing. You don't even count. You don't exist. For them, being a Tutsi is the infrastructure they are building. Yeah, in that point, yes, he is right. They have built an infrastructure. But then he is telling you about the visible and the invisible. Now, what are the invisible? When you want to pursue transparency, you don't talk about invisible programs. What are invisible programs? The only person who can say invisible program is the director of CIA, because what their activities are supposed to be, behind the curtain. But you are talking about a military service whereby we know that the job of a military establishment is to defend the country against enemies, external enemies, period. The army is not supposed to teach kids in our primary schools. No. But he's telling you about the invisible. What are the invisible? The invisible, from what I can understand, is pushing their Muhoozi project or the Tutsi agenda. That is the invisible. And they are going to work and they invest a lot of resources in it until God knows when. So when he says, I'm going to be in the military for a while, well, you can understand. He's just telling you. I think for him that was a slip of tongue, that he's going to be in the
they
military for a
sleep a
while, then
lot.
move into the state house. So since they're excellent in telling lies, don't expect much out of those statements he made, that he's not interested in being this or that. Well, he's not going to tell you the truth. Nevertheless, I want to make a clarity on what we said a little earlier on with respect to the Somali and the Americans. I think this is important to remind our listeners and the viewers. In my document to the Pentagon, on page 12, I quote an American colonel whom I met. I didn't put the town, but I met him in a town called Annapolis, Maryland, which is about 30 minutes away from Washington, D.C. This colonel was one of those people in charge of the American operation in Somalia. And I'm quoting his own words. We are very well aware of Museveni's violations of human rights, corruption, stealing elections, and many other misdeeds. As long as he does what we ask him to do in Congo, Somalia, Sudan, Central African Republic, and the Middle East, we shall turn a blind eye on his misdeeds and continue supporting him. End quote.
And that's what they have done and will continue to do.
That's what they have done, and that's what they are doing, and that is what we have to. I'm trying to think of a better word in English. In Uganda, we say okukuba busu. That is maybe Mr. Kimbugwe can help me translate that in English. We have to disarm them with that kind of devilish mentality, because that is devilish mentality. I can't call it anything better than that.
Of course,
it's
the real devils are here.
It's unacceptable. Here is a country which claims to be the most democratic country in the world, and yet they are the ones who are promoting the most undemocratic regimes, not only undemocratic, but brutal, murderous, devilish regimes. Museveni's regime, I'm sure even if you sent it to hell, the devils would say, please don't bring them here. We don't want them. So we'll be
same
stuck
with
with
the
them
Americans.
for a little while. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I think we tackled well your point of the invisible developments, the infrastructure, and you see, these guys, hey, as we have said over and over, the Batusi are the most vicious liars ever lived or ever walked on this planet. You are not going to get anything truthful out of their mouth. Never. But whatever they are planning and whatever they are doing is going to be very detrimental to our survival as a people. The sooner we get rid of their regime, the better.
Yeah. And I think their tongues slip from time to time. You just have to listen closely. Because as he mentioned the infrastructure, he talked about human resource development. So that exactly points to what they are doing.
Well, human resources development. You've seen it. I think Mr. Kimbugwe one time exposed it, that they have a special training school for future leaders of the Great Lakes region. That school is
Oh, yes.
hosted by David Louis Rubongoya, the NUP president.
Yeah.
And that is why you see everywhere there is a person who purports to be leader of NUP. He's not elected. He's appointed by the Secretary General.
Yeah, he's the
So they are
Secretary General.
promoting
No,
their
I do
leader
remember that
everywhere.
school. Mm.
Yes. You know,
Yeah.
they are in the NRM, they are in the NUP, they are in everything. So the country is taken over.
Mm.
And it's up to you
So,
as Ugandans to wake up and rescue a country. Otherwise, you are
yeah,
finished.
that is true. The
And
onus is
at
on
the rate
us.
they are killing our at the rate they are killing of our people, as you've seen in Acholi land, you've seen in Karamoja,
Mm.
you've seen it, you are seeing
Mm.
it even in Buganda.
In
As
Buganda,
one
in
person said,
Kasese.
yes,
Mm.
in Kasese. Now take some counties of Buganda: Kabula,
Mm.
Maogola, Bululi, Bulemezi,
Mm.
Singo,
Mm.
Bugerere,
Mm. Mm.
Gomba, Busuju. How many are those
Mm.
counties? I can bet you if we have uh, elections today and they are fair, not these crooked elections, and you are going by majority vote, as a Muganda, you
Mm.
cannot stand and win, because you are going to find that the entire area is populated by Batusi, okay? And they have
Mm.
infiltrated us so deeply that you even find these little town councils they have established around Kampala, Kawempe, Wandegeya, you name it. You find who is the speaker is not a Mukasa or Mwanje or Rubega. No, you've heard of those names. Some of them
Yeah.
can't even pronounce, but they are now
Mm.
everywhere. But do you
Of
find
course.
Rubega or Muwonge being a council member in Yibanda or Rukungiri? Never.
No.
Yet here, if you look at all those neighborhoods, Rubaga,
Mm.
whatever, I think they call it Rubaga Council, you're going to, how many of those
Oh,
people
yeah,
from that
Rubaga
council,
Council,
they
yeah.
speak? Yeah, I mean, they are everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
And yet you don't find an Acholi or a Muganda in Ibanda or in Kabale, and not even in Kigali. You cannot go there and buy land or be a member of the city council of Kigali. You cannot. Yet they are the ones who are now in our city councils. These are
Yeah.
things which I don't even understand how our fellow Ugandans can sit there and they tolerate this kind of invasion. Oh,
Yeah.
you can't touch him because he's the brother-in-law of one of our big friends here. Is the baloney with the brother-in-laws.
Yeah. Those
That
are
has to stop.
personal. I think we touched on that. The personal aspects have to do away with the national politics that's happening with our own erasure. We're being erased in all kind of ways, ideologically, via mass genocide.
Mm-hmm.
We're being drained
Oh,
and
yes.
taken away. Our land is gone. So that does not, personal things need to be set aside. But Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Kintu, we'll go into, because now we're going faster in time. So now Muhoozi retires, and immediately he retires, there's a lot of questions about what he's gonna do, why he has retired, and now the whispers of Muhoozi project come back again, because they only came back in the election, and then now they become a little bit more intensified after he retires. What's he gonna do? Are they preparing him to become president? And then boom, you have an event that not any time has Muhoozi's birthday been put to this certain caliber, and this national level. It became a national event. I think that was the first most confusing part about it all. It was not only a national event, but then the second night, when Paul Kagame was in Kampala, then you start to see it as a political engagement of sorts in terms of regional politics, but also international politics in terms of, because we all know Paul Kagame is a CIA plant. That should be known. We know he has been supported, been trained by the CIA, and RDF was heavily supported by the United States ruling class to go back and take Rwanda as a nation. And they use Kagame in all kinds of ways. And he's up to now, he's all the way in Mozambique. So without further ado, we're going to look at the two sides. We're going to look at the first birthday party, which was supposed to be the national takeover, where you have our mindless population flocking to get food and flocking to participate in an event that they don't have an understanding of. And we're going to contrast that with the other video, which is going to be the more elegant, elitist event that they threw with Paul Kagame. So if the producer can please show us those two videos, we'll watch them back to back, and then we'll come back with commentary on both, if that's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, JK, where are you? Microphone check. Yeah, 1 2 we can hear you. Microphone check. Check microphone 1 2.
Coming to you live. We are live on UBC, STV, M7’S.
My name is Kazora, and I'll be handling the VIP, the very improved visas. All right, now, Tamara Mirundi, the real one. The real one. Wanda. Pastor Kayanja Kadiwa. Dara ku research father ni. Pastor Mjingo. Okay. Mugabo Pastor Mjingo le Tanzania. Wait, Pastor Kayanja. Atenda tulila kustoka. Pastor Kayanja. Aya. Ndabyo para. Mugabo kwa kwini masoro.
Okay. Over to you, Alex.
Ladies and gentlemen, nakikirira no party mukolo gwa bano sibimanyi byenyizo okwogera naye ng'obubaka butuuse nze wa Nuupu Bombo Clat.
Ogambo
gyendi nyabo muri mutya
onyumye nnyo mu kasaati
ennyumye kubanga ekisanja kati kirabika muzeeyi kiweddeyo tukikwasa omulala
ye tulinya Bugambo tanyabo
wanga bakusibye plaster buzibu
waye obuzibu wa big eye obuzibu wa big eye je tukubawe obuchupa nebe bana Uganda bwebo
eye si wa enale
waye nange simanya big eye wagira ki big eye wa enale munendoza n'obuchayi bwasemu enale
mukubye obuchupa ngate wa enale
kati ndiro bamukubye obuchupa ne bamukubiramu n'amayinja ne just ebadde jjo ko ya big eye je teroza nyaseri nnyo kusomedde bambi kinsamisiza kubanga bajjeyo ekituufu
bakola bati
ne bakwasukira ddala ne balaga big eye kye bamwagaliza fere tufunye mu buzibu mu ekyo lwansonga ye talent tulimu n'ekitulaze wa gye tulaga ekirungi big eye naye akirabye ekintu tukyambadde bagenda gatwalira mbwa tetumanyi kati oli olesanya eringi n'akasuka abuliddwa akacupa nasa kubanga tubagambe mukasuka obucupa yakasuseemu ggumba
kikye muyizeemu
tuyise mu mbeera simbi bayize tukiyiseemu bulungi kubanga tulaze fe tukyakola fe newoleeta oba mundu weziri fe tusigala tukyakola niro bamukubye igumba omusayi nga gutonya naye nga tusigala nga tugenda nejjoko yaffe ngere yabiga mpaka we tugikomeza gyeyina okukoma
lwaki mulinza gireeta mu bantu ba NRA
bulijjo ebaddeeza era ne social media kweri
bubaka ki bwe muwaaba abantu abatewummuzaako abakasukira abantu obwo
nze obubaka nga nze bwempa abantu nyongera ogamba ffena tuli bannayuganda so ebintu ebyo twali bikomezza Uganda ekula terina
tujewo obukyayi bambi
obwo obukyayi buveewo mu bantu naye kiribadde nga tekiri ku big eye ne waba neyibawo ng'alina kyakola gezaako mumusonyiwa kubanga omutima ogusonyiwa ate gwe gufuna ekigenda
so bannayuganda mwenna abali eyo big eye mwana wa Nambi muganda waffe musayi gwe gumu so tumwagale kubeera mwana musician yali ayimba ebinyuma era ayimba ebibanyumira tumwagale yali tumuzze mu bantu so kati saa zino kemukubye niro ate kiraga nti big eye ate bw'anajja kigenda sukkawo olaba mukubye comedian ng'ono ejjinja olw'okubazanya jjoko ye ayambadde big eye si ye big eye naye ate olwo big eye bw'anajja ku stage mugenda mukola mutya so tukirekere awo bannayuganda kijja tukabiza amazzi tweyagalize buli omu ayagalize
abakulu leero tulabye ebadde birthday ya mukulu mumuweeyo obubaka
tukwagaliza amazaalibwa amalungi omukulu muhozi awezezza emyaka egy'obuto era nga tukwagaliza emyaka egijja
jabuto
muto okubeera emyaka etano kasajigwako agenda kutufuga
nenga jabuto ddala
muto
tumwagaliza emyaka egyo egy'obukulu gy'alina oba jabuto oba jabukulu naye tumwagaliza ekyo kyonna kyatuuseeko
n'egijja gikusaye ng'oli mulamu n'egijja osobole nawe okubeera kituufu
naffe tweyagaliza
yaman Bobby Brown niyo tubaagala nnyo bannayuganda bafaani baffe mwena mwena batwagala ono niro Bobby Brown the baddest and roughest
out Embaji family and General Records
manager genza baddest and roughest
nnyo
dinner reception that covers 48th birthday. Entertainment, speeches, and of His Excellency President Paul Kagame. But as you do that, please also note, before they take their seats, we shall have the anthem from their assigned positions. They are properly to the buffet serving stations to avoid overcrowding. Friends of Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, heads of
upon the MK, we are going to
First of all, I want to start by thanking Almighty God for letting me live up to 48 years. and taking me through everything he has taken me through for 48 years. So I praise the Lord for that. Secondly, I want to thank my parents, Mzee M7’S and Mama Janet, for raising us the way they raised us. I want to thank in a very special way His Excellency, President Paul Kagame, for honoring my invitation to come and grace this occasion. Thank you very much, sir. We are honored, and we know that it is the beginning of many good things to come.
Therefore, that's where I'm coming from, to say to Mhozi today at 48, that because I know that God will never leave us, because He promised, it is His promise, that He will never leave us nor forsake us. I tell you, Mhozi, that you must strive in all you do in this life to remember to love God with all your heart and fear Him and serve Him.
So far, what we know, what we've been told, what is true, is that the 48 years have been used very well. And therefore, there is no doubt that many more years that we wish for him ahead are going to be used even better, in my view. Thank you for inviting me to be here for this birthday. So I'm really here for two major reasons. One is to celebrate with your parents, with your family, and your friends. Celebrate your birthday. But the second is to also be happy that I'm here again after 4 or 5 years. I hadn't been coming to Uganda.
Recently, He has used you to bring back our friends to the table that we may share a meal together.
I want to thank His Excellency Paul Kagame for responding positively to Moses' invitation and coming to pay a visit to Uganda after a number of years of not coming here. Muhoozi was a gift to us in our young days of struggle, because Uganda was very unstable. So that's why you should be careful not to want to control your children, to do exactly what you want. No. Give them your opinion. Let them do what they think is right. If it is wrong, they will learn from it. The crucial thing is to give them your opinion. But suppressing them, you may actually be the one who is in the wrong and they are right. Because that's what happened.
Welcome back from that short video. I'm gonna see if we have Mr. Kintu with us in the studio, but just a few highlights off of just those two clips. I'm gonna talk about them very briefly and pass over the stage to you, Mr. Kintu, because there's just a few things that were very rather funny but provocative as well. So in the first video, the event that everyone was invited to, we know it was kind of organized, kind of how the Kabaka of Buganda's birthday parties usually go, a football match, and then you had everyone at Lugogo, and then a chivulu. So you have this indulgence and this mockery of how politics has been done in okay, this is just my view of how politics has been done throughout this campaign, whereby the opposition almost had bivulus, and you have the copy paste of what opposition has been doing with musicians, with having an opposition leader who was in the music business, what led to his actually to people to support him more. And you have that being done, but this time rather it's for Muhoozi, and it's acting like it's bringing all Ugandans together. One person in the video from Big I think said, "Fena tulibana Uganda, we are all Ugandans." And you have it kind of like these Kampala carnivals that were introduced recently, and that's what's happening on the local level. And then you have this very elitist event that happens, and just a few things, and the air of it is us versus them immediately. You have an us that has already been established in that space, whereby it's even President Kagame did not respond to an invitation other than the invitation that Muhoozi sent. So it's also that acknowledgement that this is Muhoozi's invitation that's being accepted and being honored and respected in this space, and Muhoozi being called a gift from God. Now that is hilarious. A gift from God that has, but he says something very interesting. He says he is happy to be here in Uganda. After 4 to 5 years, he hasn't been to Uganda. And God has used Muhoozi to bring back the friends to share yet another meal together. So if we can pick up from those two very different aired events, but also they show the reality of how Uganda is continuously going to be ruled. Omuntu wa wansi, omuntu wa bulijjo, the common man, the layman, or mwananchi, as they say, will remain outside of political events and discussions and ignored, while the spearheaders of a dynasty continue to meet up to plan and expand their plan and dine as friends as we watch them. Because this is not happening when we don't know. This is happening and being broadcasted on TV like a normalcy. The level of journalism that is going on is concerning and worrying, but also I can sympathize and empathize, because I do know this is a brutal militant regime where you are not accepted to journalize as much as you want. would want out there, but it's embarrassing for whole stations to be backing this up. But again, still you empathize and sympathize, and that's why we're here, because we happen to be in the diaspora and we can talk about these things. But if you could pick up from there and look at the contrast that is happening in these two different events, and how it's made to seem like one is lacking of class aspiration, brain capacity, and the other is made to seem like some national event of importance and politics and visionary. It's like a visionary event if you think that it's to the detriment of us as a people.
Thank you very much. This event, as we said earlier, was more than an engagement party. It was, if you remember very well, Paul Kagame was in the Bush War with Museveni. When they took power in 1986, Paul Kagame was Director of Military Intelligence, which was headquartered in Basima House at Mengo. But at that time, Basima House was nothing but a slaughterhouse. They tortured hundreds and hundreds of Ugandans, and they killed many of them at the hands of Kagame. And I want to quote one Ugandan. He used to live in California, but now he's back in Uganda. He's an old man, old staunch UPC guy from Bunyoro. I think he's from Bunyoro. He told me, and I'm quoting his own words, he said, I don't mind being tortured or imprisoned because of my political beliefs, because I am a staunch UPC man. But I resent it that I was tortured by a Munyarwanda Kagame in Basima House, who is not even a Ugandan. He said, anything else doesn't, I don't even remember, and I don't care about the pains I got. But the fact that the person who was inflicting these pains on me was not even a Ugandan. And he said, that hurts me, and I'll go to my grave with that pain in my heart. And he's a Ugandan. He's a Munyoro guy. But I'm not going to mention his name because he's back in Uganda. Now, Kagame was a little bit more revealing of what the unspoken words. I am here so many years, which means that we are at a time of consolidating our Tutsi power in the region. It's that simple. Consolidating our Tutsi power in the region. That's why I'm here. It's not because they invited me, there is a cake and some drinks, whatever they are going to serve me, or a meal. No, we are now sitting at the same table, consolidating our Tutsi power. That's what Kagame is talking about. Also, another interesting thing I noticed in that video is when poor Muhoozi stood up to speak, he was given paper on which to read even his own name. I mean, it's pathetic. It reveals to me what kind of brains he has in his little head. He cannot articulate anything. And even when they were written to him, you saw he was having a rough time to read them. Maybe he has a rough time to read anything written. So poor guy, I feel sorry for him. They are pushing him upstairs where he is not fit to be. And I tell you one day, if you don't watch out, that man is going to collapse and have a heart attack because he is biting more than he can chew. So I feel sorry for him. You mentioned that, yes, they had two groups. One was for the proletariat, give them the food and drink and some, mumbo jumbo dancers and the singers,
Entertainment.
let them have food. Yeah, like the prime minister said, let us have fun, dance, drink, and boogie all night long because the security is guru guru. You remember that speech she made, and she bounced around. She bounced around like a hippo in the zoo. Boom, 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 boom. She says, "Let me also almost." I said, "Holy moly!" I feel sorry for the floor. Anyway, she bounced and and swung around like a hippo. It's unfortunate we have those kind of people in positions of power. You mentioned that Kagame is an American-made project. That's true. I mentioned earlier that Kagame was the first person to send troops to Darfur in Sudan, Western Sudan, when they had disturbances there. And by the way, some of you people don't know, those disturbances were created by a man called Roger Winters. Roger Winters was the man, the intelligence officer who handled the logistical arrangements of the RPF to take over Rwanda.
Okay.
After Kigali had been taken over, Roger Winters left Washington, D.C. His office used to be at 1717 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. He moved to Colorado. And when he got to Colorado, he started working on the Sudan connection. And I remember him saying that now I have finished Rwanda, I'm going to focus on Sudan. That's when he left Washington and set up camp in Kororo. And before you knew it, after a few months, we had these explosions in Darfur. After Darfur exploded, the first person to send the troops was Rwanda. Now, let me tell you, I am not a military man. I've talked to many military people. I met the top military general who was working in the State House in Nairobi under President Moi. That I have forgotten his name when I was looking his card because I have it somewhere here. He was a Karenjini general. We met at Intercontinental Hotel in Nairobi, and I asked him that after the heads of states met in Goma, Congo, with Mobutu, when RPF invaded Rwanda, and all the heads of states from Uganda, Congo, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania condemned Uganda's support for the RPF, and Museveni denied supporting them. I asked this general, why didn't you, as East Africans, send troops to help save this country from this, murderous invasion? And he said, my friend, let me tell you, I'm a general. To send troops into a country costs so much that Kenya cannot afford to send one battalion from Kenya to Rwanda to help them fend off RPF invasion. And he explained to me how much it will cost. He said, we can't afford it. Now, if Kenya could not afford to send a battalion, or even less than a battalion, which is 1,000 men, into combat in Rwanda, how could Rwanda at that time of Kagame send troops all across into Darfur. Because Kenya could send those troops by land. They don't need to have these C-130 aeroplanes flying them over. They
Aircraft,
could probably drive to Uganda or Tanzania, but they could not afford it. Yet Rwanda could. Yet Rwanda can afford to send the troops to Mozambique, as you all know. That tells you there is someone behind Rwanda
Of course.
who is footing the bill. They cannot afford it. It's, economically impossible for the country to send the troops in another,
Or have
in a
even the
combat.
equipment and the infrastructure.
The equipment,
Like,
the manpower, support services, you name it. They could not afford it. Yet Rwanda is just like that. That tells you these are what you call, as one of those ministers said, I am a dog at the gate, keeping the master's gate. These two forces of Uganda, Rwanda, are operating at the command of someone behind them who is not even coming out in the open. This is one thing that you people who are listening to us or watching us should know, that we have a bigger monster to fight than simply these two C's. And as I quoted you that statement from a colonel, a U.S. military colonel operating in Somalia, who said, "We know all that crap. We know that, but we don't care because this is our boy. Whatever we tell him to do, he's going to do it." So now they have two boys. They have Kagame and M7, and they are now Kagame is endorsing Muhoozi, so that if the old man, you saw how the old man looked like at that party. He looked like he's one foot in the grave. So they know that
retired.
he could pop out anytime. But then we have prepared a successor. Now, preparing Muhoozi as a successor, they know damn well there is no way you are going to put Muhoozi in power through elections, even if you try to steal them. There is no way Muhoozi can stage a military coup, as we all know military coups. There is no way. Because there will be division within the military. One battalion against the other. So what they are going to do and what they have planned is they are going to surprise you by declaring him president when they already have their people in strategic places. That is why this time around, those girls you saw that were brought in from Kigali, they were not simply girls looking for men for weekend, fun fairs. They were military girls. And they had also other military people who had, just in case something goes wrong, they are ready to defend the Tutsi dynasty. And they were going to do it. So those people you saw in that marvelous hall when they were sitting down to eat, how many of them were really Ugandans? If you look at their features, I would probably say 95% of them were Batusi.
Of course.
And that's why we're proud to say, now you know Uganda is ours. And they made that loud and clear.
Very
now
clear.
Uganda is ours. We have taken over. This is our land. And you bastards, you don't even belong here. We're going to kill you all. And they are going to kill us. They have already started it, as M7’S said,
and they've never
as we have done it. Yes. So you Ugandans, hey, you better wake up.
You know what I found very interesting in what you said? You only talked about Kenya not being to afford it, but in your statement, all other regions were against Uganda's support for this. it's very alarming that even Kenya, Tanzania, DRC, Burundi could not pull a budget together to go and stop the RDF soldiers when they went back into Rwanda. And very alarming that after they did that and established themselves, then went to the Congo, where they're getting all this funding from Darfur, then to the Congo to carry out their vengeance on the Hutus. And that is...
I remember in that, yeah, I remember in that Goma meeting, Mobutu made a statement and a quote. He was so pissed off. He told Museveni, if you do not stop this invasion of Rwanda, I'm going to command my army and I'll be at the front commanding it to come and face you.
Yeah.
Actually, they belittled Museveni at that meeting. That I know because I've spoken to people who were in that meeting. Yeah. They belittled Museveni, but Museveni just walked away like a little snail and continued doing what he's doing because he had the support from Washington, D.C. and London.
Yeah.
Because
Of course.
the intelligence, the financing, the weapons. Do you know that United States set up a jamming station in Kabale on the mountains, somewhere there among the mountains of Kabale, to jam any broadcasting or telephone communication of Rwanda and Habyarimana? But at one meeting which I attended, the person who was in charge of that operation disclosed that the terrain of Kabale prevents their machines from operating efficiently to jam the airwaves of Rwanda. And at that meeting, they were surprised that I was there because the 4 women I mentioned in one of my documents who were in charge of preparing the intelligence preparation were present there. And they looked at me and said, who the hell invited Kintu to come to this meeting? They didn't know he invited me. And the person who invited me, it was funny. The person who brought me to that meeting traveled all the way from Kansas. And when he came to Washington, he said, Kintu, I'm going to this meeting. Will you come with me? Because you know the streets. I don't know the streets to this building. I said, let's go. That's how I ended up in there. And they were shocked to see me sitting there when they are discussing their dirty business.
Of course. Mr. Kintu, thank you so much for today. I've picked up so much from today's conversation, and hopefully everyone has. I don't know what more we need to hear other than the truth, because this is just the plain reality of where we stand. And this, from this point, is when we should decide where we ought to go. Right now, we'll go into our question segment, but I'll start with this one is more so a comment than a question that has been sent from the producer, and then he'll go ahead and say some more if he has some more on his end. But it was a question from Mwatu Ngoma, and he said Ugandans need to adopt the Congolese strategy of using Swahili to spread the message to your fellow East African brothers. That's why Uhuru sent KDF to protect Eastern Congo in a heartbeat.
I have no knowledge of that.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not very knowledgeable of the regional discussion or what has been done by regional leaders in regards to this further consolidation or infiltration, because it seems to be well on the way, and everyone who can make money is continuing to make money, and no one has come out to challenge the norm, and they've normalized the whole East African community strategy.
Well, one thing I know is that there is, after Congo, DRC joined the East African community, there is excitement, especially in Kenya, because let's admit it, Kenyans are very business oriented. They just saw that as a bonanza for a new market of Kenyan operatives. And one of them mentioned to me that there is money which is going to be poured into the DRC, especially to build the infrastructure, roads and other communication systems. And he mentioned to me that Kenyan contractors are lining up for this business of building infrastructure in Congo, namely roads and the airports or strips. I asked him, how about interlocking roads for the entire Congo, because Congo doesn't have any roads. He said, oh, no, that's not what we're interested in. What we are going to build is exactly what will benefit us as Kenyans. Well, in that respect, we are going to do no different from what these Muzungus have been doing. In Eastern Congo, you have airstrips out there in the middle of the jungle, but no roads interconnecting towns and the villages. So the airstrips are being used just to ferry raw minerals being dug out of the ground, put them on a small plane, fly them to a bigger airport like Entebbe, and put them on a big planes and fly them to Tel Aviv and Antwerp. This is what they have been doing. And that's what they think they are going to continue. In other words, they are going to continue raping Congo through and through. It's up to the Congolese to wake up.
The Congo, to a certain extent, we have played a backhand without even our permission to the continuous defilement of the Congo and mineral extraction just because Museveni is our illegitimate president.
Yeah.
But in that case, we'll take a short break, and if we come back and the producer doesn't have, if there are no questions for us or comments, we'll then give our closing remarks. But right now we'll take a short break and then come back after the break.
The importance of a federal system of governance in Uganda. 1. Federalism restores peace and regional stability. 2. Federalism promotes political participation. 3. Federalism encourages economic development across the country. 4. Federalism provides multiple levels of government action. 5. Federalism accommodates a diversity of opinions. 6. Federalism protects against tyranny of the majority. 7. Federalism promotes unity without imposing uniformity. Register today and join the UFCC Assembly by visiting www.ufcc.uk.
Time takes a toll on everyone, they say. Time is merciless, it won't wait for us to change. Time, I am stressing out, I can't figure out what to say. Oh, time, just give us time. Time, looking back on pictures, and I find it hard to see you and myself in places.
Welcome back from the short break. So I'll ask the producer if there are any questions or comments that we can attend to while I'm still here with Mr. Kintu, to please go ahead and play those, and then we'll pick up from there. So a question has come in, Mr. Kintu. I'm going to read it from here. It's for you. So it says, Mr. Kintu, what's your advice to Bobby, who, due to his pride and acknowledgement of Tutsi tribalism and embarrassing federal embarrassing federal, how he has now been caught napping, as the Muhoozi project was officially being launched, whilst on BBC, assuming that they care, giving him an opportunity to speak on TV. They put him on BBC. No, BBS, not BBC, on BBS, Telefina. Assuming that they care, giving him an opportunity to speak on TV, but it was just a decoy whilst getting ready for the Muhoozi birthday party.
These guys are masters of deception and lies. For a few years, Bobby Wine has not been allowed to speak on any radio or television in Uganda. But this time around, they opened the cage and let him appear on one of them. I don't know, because I have not spoken to him about it. And I have no intention of talking to him about it anyway. Was he aware that this is a decoy or this is a trick they have played on him? I don't know if he was aware. On the other hand, I knew that they issued an invitation for him to come and perform, which apparently he did not accept, which is great. You have to be insane.
Have some dignity.
That's an insult. That was an insult to his person. So I'm glad he didn't accept. However, this decoy of allowing him to speak, to appear on a television program, in my mind, that was a trick to, it's no different from being in my dining room, having a fantastic meal with the best cuts of meat, and then I find a little bone with a little bit of meat on it, and they throw it through the door so that my dogs outside.
So they threw him a bone.
Yeah, they threw a bone, so that those dogs would be out there they are very busy, and I throw another bone, and I keep them busy that way, and then while I'm enjoying the best piece of meat at my dining table. I believe that's what they did to him, because look at the whole family displaying in the best possible that we are the ones owning this country now. We the Tutsis. And you guys, you can be out there. Yeah, we can even allow you
And
to go in the
shout.
region, but we have already commandeered the rest of the country. They're out there celebrating, not literally celebrating, but eating free food and drinking free water. I remember there was an American president here who was as racist as anyone can possibly be, and he said, "Give the niggers guns, and the drugs, and keep them busy in the ghetto." So keep them busy over there while we are doing our thing. By the time they become sober, we have already taken over everything. That's the mentality of these exploiters. So,
Of course.
I don't know what he thinks. I think we should throw that question to him. Now that he can look back and reflect on what happened, what is his view of what really happened to our loved, beloved country? And I hope he has an answer to that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer. And next question, please. Oh yes, sorry, I have them here. So there is another question for you, Mr. Chintu. Our people in Uganda and perhaps the whole region apart from Tanzania and Kenya are very tired, exhausted by the Museveni warmongering system. Mr. Chintu, my question is how best can we bring our people on track to fight back for their freedom, especially Ugandan, Congolese, and Burundi?
Well, that's a good question. Definitely, our neighbors are disgusted with what is going on in Uganda with respect to Museveni's savage brutality, not only against Ugandans, but even in neighboring countries. That is true. That's a fact of life. However, most of them just wonder, how come the Ugandans are so, I don't even know what to call it. But let me quote one Kenyan who told me, he asked me a simple question. He said, "What's wrong with you Ugandans?" And I said, "You can't even set one gas station on fire." That is a question I asked my friends who are talking about we are in struggle, removing a dictator. And I still ask them, and I'm going to repeat that question again. How many Ugandans have been killed by these Tutsis in Uganda? Leave alone Sudan, Congo, Rwanda. But I'm talking about within our own Uganda. How many Ugandans have been killed by these Tutsis? You are talking about thousands. How many of them are languishing in torture gulags around Uganda? Thousands. How many Ugandans have their land stolen from them? They are now landless and homeless. Thousands.
Many of them.
And all this to you. And if you really are in a struggle to remove the dictator, how many of them have you killed? Zero. How many of them, if you haven't killed them, at least you were able to tear his shirt or dress? How many of them can say, my dress was torn or my shirt was torn by these people who attacked me? Zero. How many of them have you spit your saliva on? If you could not throw a stone, at least you could spit your saliva. How many of them have you done that to? Zero.
None.
You expect a Tanzanian or a Kenyan or a Congolese or a Ghanaian or Nigerian to come and arrest you when you are sitting on your fat behind doing bloody nothing? Shame on you, Ugandans. Shame on you.
And so for the next question, Mr. Kintu, the next question is for you. Can you highlight an assassination of President Magufuli as dictator Museveni visited him then? It is when his illness began.
I have no facts about that because I never speak in terms of speculations. Whatever I say, I must have concrete evidence or having spoken to people who have been directly involved or who have first-hand information. Now, one thing I can say, Magufuli was poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And there were many reasons why Magufuli was poisoned. Some people have said the Chinese, because he disarmed their robbery project of building a big seaport, and they said only an idiot could sign this contract. Some other people have speculated that Museveni could have his hands in Magufuli's poisoning, because at one time, if you remember, Magufuli he humiliated Museveni. He said, I have been in power for 3 years and I have accomplished this, and you've been there for 100 years and you haven't done one other thing. And Museveni looked like a fool. And don't mess around with Museveni's ego. You either kill him or don't touch his ego. That is also a possibility. As I said, those are speculations. None of us has proof what killed Magufuli. But one thing we know, Magufuli was poisoned. Who did the poisoning? Was it Museveni? Was it the Chinese? Was it what? We don't know. But one of these days, we are going to find out. The truth is, you cannot hide the truth. You never can hide the truth. It will come out.
It reveals itself. And then we got another one. It's more of a commentary and gratitude. It says, Hi, Desire and Mr. Kintu. I can't thank you both enough for your fantastic work. I've been following UNN with great interest and continue to do so as I share the same vision of federalism. However, the time frame within which objectives are met is my concern. I am of the view that we need to set up, register, and promote a pro-federalist political party in Uganda. We need to elect our political leaders to stand on the ground and promote federalism based in Uganda. We need space on the battlefield sooner, don't we? God bless.
That's a good comment, but this much I can say: do not think you can pursue that line of activity in Uganda today when it is still under the Tutsi domination. I remember some years ago somebody asked me a similar question: we need to rebuild the Democratic Party or the UPC party, and I said, baloney, you cannot do that under these invaders when they are still in control. That's why all those political parties are now literally dead.
Collapsing,
you have first to remove this Tutsi domination, and then you can sit down and build your political parties, whichever party you support. It is just like saying, if your foot is heavily infested with jiggers, you have first to remove the jiggers before you go and buy the most expensive shoe and wear it. You will not walk comfortably no matter how nice the shoes look like. When your feet are infested with 200 jiggers in each toe, you cannot. You have to remove the jiggers first. Then you can think of wearing nice shoes. it is that sequence of events that has to be followed.
Mm. And then there is the next one. I think it's a question commentary. I'm not sure, but I'll read it out. Do you think His Excellence Bobby Wine can now say that on the day of the BBS interview, he then called himself a useful idiot to NRA government? Kuba, the truth, he was outsmarted by Muhoozi on that day.
Well, if those were his comments, I leave it up to him. I cannot add on any more.
Of course.
But
I understand.
It is very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate things ended up that way. Well, in every activity, there is a time to sit down, reflect, reassess, and replan your new strategy. Any person who wants to make a difference has to do that. You know, you don't have to have a PhD from Harvard or Oxford to understand that. Everybody who wants to do something has to sit down, reflect, as we are reflecting about this Muhoozi thing, you know, this birthday party. What does it mean? What did it imply? You have to do that. And then after you've done that, you sit down and say, okay, now, if that is what they are trying to do, now we are going to do this, that, or the
We're
other.
going to do
You
this
have
and
to.
that.
If you don't, you are a fool. If you don't,
Of
you are
course.
a fool. And another thing too, you have to listen to advice, for God's sake. Because none of us has full custody of all the knowledge. No.
That's key.
Otherwise, we wouldn't. We have to listen to other people who may know better than we do. And then after you listen to their advice, you pick out something of substance or something that is useless, and you discard what is useless. But those things of substance, you pick them up, incorporate them in your own curriculum, and go forward. That's how success is achieved. Yeah.
Okay. No, I understand. If the producer can forward or play any other commentary or questions that we might have.
Mbalamusizaako mwenna abali mu studio, Mzee Kintu, Desire n'abalala abali emabega eyo besitalabye. Mbalamusizaako. Nze kyenjala okubuuza, w'oggyeko bano abatuusi abatuli obubi be tupulaninga okulwanyisa, tukoze tutya okulabika ntutuula ku nfeete ba buloga bano be baaguze abangi aba NUP bano bonna batayiza okuvumirira UNN Kimbugwe, Mzee Kintu n'abalala, tukoze tutya okubatuula ku nfeete okulabika ntubazikiza bonna ne batuula, kuba kati baagufudde mugano bonna be bakozesa okulwanyisa guno omukutu. Wabula kyenneebazaamu webale nnyo tusomesa okuvuguka amaaso. Ekirala kye njagala okubuuza bakadde bange, tugenda kwawula tutya abatuusi bano abali mu Uganda abayogera olulimi Oluganda? Jjukira beekwese mu Banyankole, tugenda baawulira ku ki? Kubanga obutatuyingiramu kutufuukira byenkwawa nga tubalwanyisa. Tukoze tutya abatuusi abo tujja baawulira ku ki abajja mu mbeera y'okwefuula Abanyankole? Kuba abatuusi naye beekweka mu Banyankole. Tunaabaawula tutya ng'essaawa etuuse eri eyakanaayo kyani?
Are those the only questions?
I think those are the first one that he started with, that the producers decided to play, those first two questions.
Okay. All right. With regards to the bloggers, you do not have control over them.
Of course.
The interesting thing about them is whatever they are saying cannot hold water. What we have done and what we are going to continue doing is we are going to present facts and the programs of salvation for our country. And they are producing virtually none of them. So what they are trying to do, I saw one, I haven't seen all of them, and I don't need to see them anyway. I saw one which said, yeah, it's a waste of time. I saw one which said, do not let that fat thing from UNN presentations be put on our group site. You know, if you start attacking someone by the way he looks like, or his haircut, or his, whatever, you see, in legal strategies here I will speak for the United States where I am, if you cannot fight the arguments or the accusations of the crime, you attack the character of the person. Then you start to say, oh, even when he was in high school, he used to smoke marijuana. No. We are talking about who actually broke into the bank yesterday and stole money from nation's bank. We are not talking about who smoked marijuana 15 years ago when he was in high school. This is what they are doing. They are trying to smear character assassination on some people, Chimbugwe, myself, or whoever else. The reason is because they can't come up with the facts to oppose or to correct if there is anything wrong we have said. They cannot, because they don't have the facts. They are a bunch of, liars paid just to tell lies and to smear. I had one saying that Chimbugwe has built a prison in Uganda. I don't even know whether Chimbugwe has been in Uganda recently. Mabati building a prison. The most nonsense. It is as nonsensical as something I heard about more than a year ago that, oh, our president's car does not even take petrol, it takes milk. Which vehicle drinks milk? It runs on milk, not on petrol. You don't have to have finished, primary school to understand that this is bullshit. That's what they are trying to parade among us, and they are not fit to talk like that. Huh? You just ignore them, and they will run out of steam because they are going nowhere. Now, this gentleman asking about the who are hiding among Banyankole, I think it was last Thursday? We had a man from West Nile who said he's going to go back to West Nile and now he knows what to do because those people can stand out like a sore thumb. You don't have to look too deep to understand it. So there is your answer, okay? There is. Let me tell you one other thing. There is a video I got on social media of Ukrainian children, and it's in Russian. So I had to send it to my friends who went to school in Russia, and they gave me the translation. These kids, these Ukrainian kids, set up a roadblock, and they put the Ukrainian flags flying high up on a tree, on a piece of wood. And they are all armed with AK-47. They were both boys and girls, and they looked like they are around 12, 13, no more than 14. And the person who took the video asked them a question. They said, oh, we have set up this roadblock. Anybody who comes by here or through this road will stop you, and we ask you a question. Now, there are some words, if you are not a Ukrainian, you cannot pronounce them right. And if we find that you are not a Ukrainian, if you make that mistake, then we'll pump bullets in you. It is similar. Let me put it in Uganda so that you can understand. You could be on the road near Katonga River and you set up a roadblock and you ask somebody, where are you going? And he will answer in Uganda, Njenda Masaka. Then you understand that's not a Muganda. Muganda will not say Njenda Masaka. The Muganda will say Ngenda Masaka. And these kids said, if you mistake in the pronunciation of that particular word, we put bullets in you. And the person who interviewed them was actually Ukrainian. He thanked them and saluted them, and they were very proud and confident, manning a little roadblock. Just about, they were about 7, 8 little kids with AK-47s. So there are many ways you can identify who is who. Okay, you don't have to have a PhD in biology. These differences are so outstanding that even when you close one eye, you can tell who is who. So I think your question is answered. Just to sit down and think about it, and you'll find
the answers you seek. If the producer could play the next one, please. If I might comment lightly on the bloggers, they've been doing this for a while, and I don't watch or interact, but the more we have to understand that what we're doing is not to a certain extent, it is serious. And I think, Mr. Kintu, you brought this up, whereby we have a bigger enemy to fight. We have a bigger monster to face of if we actually truly really want to be liberated in Uganda. So we cannot offer resources and energy towards characters that have chosen character assassination as the only crutch they can lean on in order to win an argument. Because it's not even about winning the argument, it's about the well-being of a people. So I don't think we have any other questions, but if I could invite you, Mr. Kintu, for your closing remarks, and then we will wrap up today's show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to us and viewing our presentation. I hope we have tried to give you something that you can take home and bite on it. And maybe after a while, you're going to see the light and also be able to figure out what we're going to do to save our country, or rather to rescue our country, because it is literally taken over by Tutsis.
Yeah.
That is the enemy that we have to work on. We are not going to waste our energy on anybody who is talking nonsense or trying to attack us as people, because we know you are doing that because you are being paid by the enemy. And anybody who, a blogger who is attacking us is definitely an NRM agent, pure and simple. Some of them could even pretend to be, indigenous Ugandans, or rather having indigenous names, but deep down, they are not Ugandans. They are Nyarwandas. And we have plenty of those. We know that. Museveni awakened you to this level of evil spirit. You are now contaminated. It's unfortunate, but there is always a possibility to repent and come back to the fold. Uganda is a country of peaceful people. We want everyone to live in peace, but Uganda has to be run and managed by Ugandans, not invaders, not intruders. And that must be clear. Our enemy right now is the Tutsi dynasty, and we are going to fight it and we are going to win it. whether you like it or not. So better be sure that you are on the right side of the door, because if you are on the wrong side of the door and the victory comes our way, as I know it will, then you will be a sorry person in that country. We don't want anyone to cry. We want everyone to be happy. We grew up with everyone. We love each other. We are peaceful people in spite of our diversity. And that's our diversity is something we have to cherish, appreciate, and promote. I
And the
didn't choose to
unity
be a
point.
Muganda. You didn't choose to be a Lugbara or an Itesot, but that doesn't stop you from being my best friend.
Yeah.
So we have to work together. But one thing that came out of those questions that were raised, just simply wondering or claiming or crying or whatever, is not going to help us. It is what you are going to do with the day for the salvation of your country. It's not what you are going to talk about, what you are going to do, because it is actions that are going to save the country. As I said, that man asked me a question. You can't even set one bloody petrol station on fire, and you think you want to be saved from these invaders? And I'm sure he was meaning more than a petrol station. But look at Uganda. What have we done? Nothing. Whoever you talk to, they are always finding reasons why they shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They are always quick to find a reason why they shouldn't, instead of trying to find a reason why they should. And the reason why they should is very clear. Save your country from Tutsi invasion. They can't even get that in their heads. A good many of them have been trapped with those Tutsi women. They are wrapped up in the bed. They can't even move out of their beds. Even if they move out of their beds, their minds are still locked up in the beds. And that's detrimental to the security of our country. Thank you very much for listening to us. Until next time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kintu. As always, it's always refreshing to, have a conversation with you, and all the information and the research that you've done up to date and the information that you've collected. Of course, you're in the caliber of elders. We appreciate all the information that can trickle down and into the next generation. There was a last comment or question that came. The viewer said, "Thank you both for considering my earlier question. I accept that the current situation in Uganda is not conducive to a level playing field. Despite this, we, the pro-federalism, need to set up a base, headquarter, a political party to launch ourselves, don't we? Thank you both." And if I could take this opportunity to reply to this answer, UFCC is happening for a reason. UFCC is there to register and for your participation. A Ugandan politically affiliated group does not necessarily have to be in Uganda. We happen to be not only, I would say the word blessed for lack of a better word, but also it's a divine opportunistic thing that we happen to live in the diaspora with the ability to still participate in national level politics while away from home. Let's grab that opportunity and think about, because I find this very interesting about Uganda. News filters into Uganda from diaspora people to people in Kampala, then spreads from Kampala to the remote areas. Why doesn't the diaspora see itself as a politically, economic, and possibly could build militarily a strong unit to go and reclaim back our nation? Of course, with communication back and forth with people back home, but most of the work being done abroad. The independence of African nation was largely influenced by people in the diaspora, Africans in the diaspora. If I can say this, I've forgotten the word in English, because that's where the force came from in terms of resources. So I appreciate, even when we have these these conversations, because this is an intelligentsia that we're building. I did not know about this infiltration. I did not know about the Bahima dynasty until UNN. So let's appreciate those things, but not only appreciate, but also what Mr. Kintu said. What are you going to do? Let's not take these moments for granted. Let us fully participate and get others to participate. But with that, I thank you all for being with us until next Sunday. A blessed good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
Singa mukama yanukula sala zaffe omugenyi najja musulako ebibamba naye ebikolimo by'enkoko tebitakamunye musiiba mugamba gowonyegera bikusambya kandukuviire ku ntono ng'omuyala asanze we bafumba omugenyi yandage ennaku nnyanga asenga kati akulungudde omwezi nalina enkoko yange lujumba nagimuwa n'agirya obugenyi nalina ne bata yange kabuzi nayo yagirya dda tasaaga omugenyi atagenda omugenyi andabye ennaku serwa gy'okwota mukoye omugenyi yasenga nasinza nnyini mwentanama omugenyi mukoye nze yajja tukubya mu ngalo kati atusesa makete nalina kamyu kange gasodde nakoya kandyako nankuba ebibe kyagalo nalina embuzi yange bitanga nayo yajekwera nampa ebijanjalo okwekulubeseza ku munnanfuusi wabula kwefuulira nolozolera singa mukama yanukula essaala zaffe omugenyi najja musulako ebibamba naye ebikolimo by'enkoko tebitakamunye musiiba mugamba gowonyegera likusambya omugenyi atagenda omugenyi andabye ennaku serwa gy'okwota mukoye omugenyi yasenga nasinza nnyini mwentanama omugenyi mukoye nze oba tuttemu empisi tumuwaalye tumulimba ennyama ya mbuzi eva wa mutanda baluvu banakkirira ekaganga naye empulira alinayo muganga oba tumutegere kamyu mu butunda eb'entaanya y'okusenvula makanda bwayoya doodo tumuwa omunyango akotebwa omumira aserengeta ettanda omugenyi atagenda omugenyi andabye ennaku serwa gy'okwota mukoye omugenyi yasenga nasinza nnyini mwentanama omugenyi mukoye nze omugenyi atagenda omugenyi andabye ennaku serwa gy'okwota mukoye omugenyi yasenga nasinza nnyini mwentanama omugenyi mukoye nze omugenyi yasenga omugenyi mukoye omugenyi atagenda omugenyi yasenga